let's frame it like this. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 fans are the Star Wars original trilogy fans of the community, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 fans are the prequel fans of the community. You put them in a room together, and it's probably going to end up in flames in like 2 minutes. Yeah. So, full disclaimer, I know what this looks like. I know the title of the video seems a little weird, and this all seems out of left field, but allow me to just explain for a second. So, as you guys might have noticed, I have kind of stepped away a little bit from creating Xenoblade content on my channel, specifically Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition content, because I was covering a lot of that game because I absolutely love it. Love it to death. My favorite video game of all time, Xenoblade Chronicles. Remade, remastered on Nintendo Switch. A dream come true for me. It's a game that I absolutely adore, but it's kind of been notably absent from my channel for almost a month now. And what I want to provide for you today is an explanation as to why. Why I'm kind of, branching out a little bit, exploring new things, and maybe just distancing myself from the Xeno content creation bandwagon for a little while. So I don't even know how to properly state this other than I think there is a significant problem involving the discourse between fans in the Xeno series and in the Xenoblade community in general. And these problems have manifest themselves into an environment where I really don't want to engage in conversation, and I kind of just find it unpleasant and not like something I just want to see myself doing either as a hobby for fun, which I'm doing that right now, or maybe as a future career path. I love Xenoblade Chronicles to death, but I kind of just need to put it down for a little bit and explore other things. So first, I want to make it very abundantly clear that I have had my own contentious opinions on Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I made a video upon its release date. I tried to give the game a fair shot, and it really just wasn't for me. But in that same breath, I will never knock someone for liking that game. If you do, good on you guys. If you like it more than one, have at it. It's perfectly fine by me. We can coexist. We have different opinions, sure, but I'm never going to tell you you're a bad person or you have terrible taste or this or that just because you prefer a piece of media over something that I don't prefer, or you like something more than I like something. It's great that people find things to love about that game. It's just, it didn't really strike me. I've had my issues with the game, and I feel like, in some regards, my review from 2017 is very outdated. I've grown as a critic tremendously over the last year, and I can definitely tell you, yeah, I do agree. There are some things I for sure nitpicked. There are some things that really weren't super substantive critiques and were just kind of shots and reactionary responses to the game really not being something that I was as excited about as Xenoblade Chronicles 1. And I will fully admit my faults and critiques there. I'm not a perfect person. I'll just say that. But again, if you like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, good for you guys. It's great that you have something to love in the series, just as it's great for fans of 1 to have Definitive Edition. Why am I saying all this? Well, this is at its core the issue that I see in the Xenoblade community. And it's become so prevalent in the discussion and toxic and constant that it's impossible to ignore. And it's the exact reason why I've kind of stepped away from creation in the series at the moment, because all of the discourse surrounding these games has just turned into mindless arguing, people belittling other people's opinions, and people attacking other media for just the hell of it. Now, it's a little ridiculous, I know, and there are some people who are in my fan base who they do openly do this, and it can be something that it's sometimes just a little fun to do, to poke some fun jabs at, at things that you find as plot holes or things you don't like or this or that. But it's genuinely gotten out of hand. Like, you can't post a screenshot, talk about a thing, do fan art, just talk about the video games without someone arguing. And what I think is the most egregious thing right now is that the community's biggest figureheads, which I don't want to name names specifically, are constantly propagating this sort of discussion, arguing, well, this game is the best game, and this game isn't as good. And it seems to be the main argument between Xenoblade 1 and 2. On social media, in the subreddits, just in videos in general, where there's this constant war, this constant battle between fans of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it turns hostile very quickly. Now, I've expressed the reasons why I love Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I've also expressed reasons why I am not a huge fan of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I'm not saying you can't have opinions on either games. Of course you can. These games can coexist. The communities and people can coexist without you belittling the other person's opinion for enjoying something. I can just express why I like one piece of media and why I don't like another piece of media. The issue with the infighting in the Xenoblade Chronicles community is that people on either side of the fence, whether you're a fan of 1 or 2, constantly try to find ways to knock down the other person's favorite game. Whether it's making fun of characters or just outright trashing the games in like these horrible and poorly worded and not at all nuanced tweets or just posts, and it's left me very jaded. Even now, I can imagine people in comments or just in general arguing about either game, like, they can't peacefully coexist with each other. And I think that's the issue with this entire set of discourse overall, is that there's very little peace and coexistence between fans of specifically Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. I don't really see this as the case for like people who are big fans of X. They don't seem to really attack other people's games. But here's the reason why I think this is the case. Here's the reason why I think that fans of 1 and 2 constantly find this need to bicker about which game they think is better and knock down the other one. And I think that's because at their core, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 are extremely similar experiences in the type of story and game that they offer. They are both narratively driven JRPGs with, the real-time action battle system. The big difference is that one appeals to a specific demographic, and 2 appeals to a completely separate demographic, so much so that it kind of alienates both sides of the fence. So fans of 1 will only really stick to 1 because they don't like certain aspects of 2, and fans of 2 will really gravitate more toward 2 because they're not entirely fans of certain aspects of 1, whether it's some of the smaller things like the character designs, or the voice acting, or the writing, or some of the gameplay mechanics, or, just anything like that. What's on offer on both experiences is, nothing short of eclectic for people. There are 2 completely different experiences, which is good for people who like variation in their games and their sequels, But at the same time, they're so similar in their branding that people can obviously make the easy comparisons. The structure of the game's stories are very similar. The way that the framework is built upon for Xenoblade 1 and 2, they're very similarly made games. It's just that their content is so drastically different from one another, which is where this kind of war sets itself. You have fans of 1 who can draw parallels to events and things that happen in 1, and fans of 2 that draw comparisons to events that happen in 2 to 1, and then they constantly fight over those 2 things. Like people fight over Riki and Tora. Why? Because Riki and Tora are like similar characters, not just because they're Nopon, but because they're similar characters in how they're set up, what they do in the plot. People constantly compare Rex and Shulk because Rex and Shulk have very similar roles in their respective stories. Same thing with like Pyra and Fiora, or just anything like that. There's constant comparison, belittling, attacking, and that's because at the same time the fan base is so impassioned about either game. And I can understand that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Xenoblade Chronicles 1. It was a game that was formative to my development as a young adult many, many years ago when I played it. And I think that's the case for fans of 2 as well, that they have their own reasons for really loving that game. It's kind of a war of these two cult followings of people who want to see the series in one direction and people who want to see the series in another. I think this type of conversation could exist, but as is the case with most things on the internet, you can't really talk or have opinions on things without, people just attacking you for no reason at all. And that's kind of the problem with the Xenoblade Chronicles community as a whole, What it's really devolved to in current year is people just mindlessly arguing about things that really don't need to be argued, and as a result it's a little tiresome. I was initially planning, after beating Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, to maybe go back and try to play through 2 again to get maybe a new perspective or try to see it in a different light, because I haven't played it since the game first came out, and there have been a lot of developments gameplay wise, and maybe I was looking at the game through, tinted lenses, and I had these expectations, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition exists. That's the game that I wanted. And since I have that, maybe I would have less hostility towards Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But the more thought I put into it, the more I realized, is it really worth it? Because, all it's going to do is propagate this horrible discussion more, because it's very likely that my opinions, while they might change in certain places, probably will not drastically change, because it's not an issue of one game being better than the other, or one game doing one thing better than the other. It's an issue of the 2 games being completely different experiences at their core. And if the core experience of 2 never really spoke to me, then I doubt it would speak to me again, 3 years later. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. In any case, it might be a little while until I do make more Xenoblade content again. I just kind of wanted to give you guys this explanation as to why, and hopefully not start a flame war in my comments section. But yeah, I feel like there just needs to be a voice of reason with this type of thing. That there's way too much unnecessary fighting. This unnecessary, hostile, toxic discourse between 2 different, fans of the same community. It's really just not needed. Oh yeah, Persona video on the way, guys. Don't worry.